Now we're going to move on to District 1. You want to introduce the District 1 candidates?
Well, I'll let them introduce themselves, but first of all, I just want to thank you so much. I want to thank you all for staying with us throughout the day. It's so important, I think, more important than ever, that we get it right when choosing. You get it right when you're voting. And so I just want to thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time, for your belief in this city, and your passion for this city. And that's the thing that we all have in common. And as a reminder, are the questions that Michael will be asking are from the readership, the Daily News, ours from the membership of the Galveston Regional Chamber of Commerce. And it goes by really quickly, so there's not a lot of them. We won't get to all of your questions, but you can certainly email us and we'll make sure that they answer them. So without further ado, we drew names, and I think you drew number 1. So please introduce yourself. You've got a couple of minutes, and thank you again for being here.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Douglas Godnich. I'm a lifelong resident of Galveston, City of Galveston, District 1. I'm 51 years old and I've been a business operator here for the last 20 years. But I grew up in District 1 and enjoy the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Reverend E.R. Johnson. Once again, I am a candidate for District 1 of Galveston City Council. The reason why I'm running for this particular position is to represent a portion of the city of District 1 to make sure that their voices is heard. We're at a time and a crossroad where we can yet achieve great things in this city, and I think we're on our way to a good opportunity to advance. District 1 has a lot of opportunities for advancement, and so I want to be that representative to make sure that that particular district gets those tools, it gets those things that it needs to be sure that it once again is developed and once again brought to the forefront, that we might be able to allow this city of Galveston to become a place where we all can have an opportunity to learn, grow, and share in so many things that Galveston has to offer. So I'm looking forward for the opportunity to be able to be a part of that, and I'm certainly thankful for the opportunity to be able to share in this moment, that we be able to come together and be able to have this dialogue together on today.
Thank you so much. We're going to start with our first question. What are the 2 most important issues facing Galveston today, and what is your plan to address them? Yes, sir, you'll go first.
I think the 2 biggest issues facing the city of Galveston are, 1, budgetary constraints and development. And particularly in District 1, my primary concern is the displacement of the people who have been living on the island, been living in District 1, being displaced by the increase in property values, being displaced by the increase in the tax rate. And I think those are issues that are critical, that affect the people who actually live here and choose to make Galveston their home. As the expense of living on the island increases, many people, especially in District 1 that are vulnerable, are being displaced, and I think that's a concern that City Council needs to address, and I think those are the 2 biggest issues affecting District 1 in particular.
I think, once again, one of the major factors, of course, in District 1 and of course, in the entire city is our infrastructure. We need to make sure that, once again, that we address those issues that are part of District 1. For any of you who know, on any time like this, on a rainy day like this, anytime we have flooding, District 1 is one of those areas that flood more so than any other part of the city. So we need to address that first and foremost in that particular area, and then we can begin to address housing and can address those businesses that we can bring to that particular area, to bring development to that particular area, to do what, once again, what Mr. Goshen said, to bring forth families to have an opportunity to have affordable homes in that community. So we need to address some of those things. Of course, once again, dealing with the infrastructure, beginning with that, and then, of course, start dealing with other items that we can yet address to make sure that the citizens of that particular district will be able to have an opportunity to certainly bring forth an advancement in that particular area.
Michael?
Before I ask the question, I was remiss in also not mentioning that the 3rd candidate in this race, Terrace Woods, was unable to attend also, so we only have 2 of them. So Who's up now? Mr. Johnson, I think you go
Johnson,
next.
yes.
All right. So here's your question. What do you think about the property tax rate? And if you think it's too high, where would you propose to make cuts? And what specific programs, services, or people?
Well, being a taxpayer, we always would think taxes are too high.
Always too high.
But I think that we can yet once again address that particular issue of making sure that the tax rate is at a level that once again that would be comfortable for those individuals within District 1 and an entire city. I think certainly more so if there are other areas that we can yet bring, that we can allow to bring in more income in other areas that would help keep the taxes at a level where most individuals in that particular district and in the city would be able to afford. And so we would look forward to any other particular instance where we can yet bring in additional funds from additional areas to make sure that we can keep the tax level at a level that many of us would be certainly comfortable with and be able to allow others, as we know, to be able to afford them.
Mr. Godnich.
Thank you. Well, I think we're dealing with two issues. One, the tax rate having increased from last year is a major issue, but the next biggest issue is the valuation of the properties that tax rate affects. And I think District 1 in particular is more hit than many of the other districts because we have so many older homes in District 1, and as people from other communities inflate the values of these older homes and move into the community, more people who have elderly people and many people who've lived in the district for a long time are being displaced. When we talk about how that tax rate affects city services, I think what needs to be looked at is the revenue. As the increase in the values of the property, the tax rate, either last year's tax rate or this year's tax rate, affects the property in a disproportionate value because more income is being generated. When you ask the question about what city services would be affected by a decrease in the tax rate, well, I think those are budgetary issues, and I think the primary concern that many people are look at is what are the key city services that the people prioritize? Emergency services, police, fire, ambulance services. I think those are key services, along with garbage and refuse are the services that people prioritize. I think the big issue that many people are concerned about that I hear in District 1 is how the city has deviated from priorities and moved into other issues and spent resources on other issues that adversely affect the people who live here on a regular basis and their priorities. So I think much of that has to do with budgetary issues, not cutting city services, but focusing on the city services that the people in our district and the city as a whole prioritize. And I think that's what needs to be the priority.
And who goes first now, Mr. Johnson? Mr. Goodnich. Thank you. What is your position on the tourism industry and vacation rentals in Galveston?
Well, District 1 has many short-term rental properties within the district, and I think it's an asset. I think the tourism as a whole is an asset. As you look at the development across the whole island, it's a key economic engine for the whole city. But as people come here and visit, and as more people invest in District 1 in particular, many people are being displaced as property values are increasing. And going back to the tax rate, it doesn't matter what the tax rate is. As property values go up, many people who've been living in their homes for 50, 60 years are being adversely impacted. And I think those issues have to be examined when the city allows developers to come in and not develop on the beachfront areas, but as the development moves throughout the community and into the neighborhoods. And I think the neighborhoods need to be protected so people who've chosen to live in their homes, invest in their homes, not as weekend rentals, as short-term rentals, but the people who actually live here, I think they need to be protected. And I think the city needs to take a closer look at the people who are actually here, living here full-time, year-round, and how the short-term rental as a microcosm of the tourist industry has affected the neighborhoods individually. So that needs to be examined by City Council as development's allowed to increase on the island.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, what's your position on the tourism industry and vacation rentals in Galveston?
Well, of course, once again, we know that we are an island, and so tourism is going to be one of the top priorities on this particular island because of what we have to offer to so many individuals and, of course, across the state, across the nation. So I think tourism is going to be one of our top things that we're going to certainly continue to have to address and have to look at. And then when we look at the short-term rentals, then that's going to be another area that's going to keep us, once again, opportunity to advance and allow many other individuals to also have business opportunities within our city and within our district. And then, of course, once again, we must continuously look at those particular neighborhoods that those particular short rentals are in to make sure that those particular short-term rentals are yet somewhat maintaining the landscape of that particular neighborhood so it won't change the landscape of it. It'll, of course, increase some of the traffic in the neighborhood, but certainly without bringing forth any other additional burden upon the neighborhood. So I think short-term rental is going to be a part of that key element of tourism, as we have the hotel industry that is a major part. And then when we get to the lower level where other families weren't able to come together in short-term rental. So I think that's one of the areas that we certainly would be able to know and continue to address.
Who's up next? Mr. Johnson. Okay, so the concept of housing and the troubles with it in Galveston has come up a couple of times, so I'll pose this question. What can or should the city do to help promote creation of middle income or workforce housing on the island?
Well, certainly we look at, once again, in District 1 where there are several areas where there can be development, certainly for middle class individuals to have homes. Of course, as we know that the market value of many of these homes that we have already in District 1 and in the city are somewhat more higher than those on the mainland. And so we need to kind of make sure we address that housing aspect for the middle income, and then also to bring forth jobs for that particular individuals to make sure that they have an opportunity to earn a livable wage, that they will able to have an opportunity to become home ownership. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at certain areas that can be developed for that we might be able to address that need that we surely need in Galveston, is that a middle class a group of individuals who are yet homeowners, who are part of this community, who's paying taxes, who are doing everything they can, and to make sure that they're able to bring their families and raise their families in a wonderful city. Like I had an opportunity to come and raise my family in a wonderful city. And so the same opportunity that I was presented with is what I certainly would allow someone else to have the same opportunity to do also.
Mr. Gottnich?
I think the biggest issue, because we've been hearing about affordable housing in Galveston for the last forever, for a very long time, the biggest issue is jobs. People are not, we're on the end of I-45. If the jobs aren't here, people are going to live where their jobs afford them the opportunity to commute back and forth. The city needs to do more in developing jobs, more than service industry jobs here on the island. Between UTMB and the Port of Galveston and the tourism industry, more needs to be done to develop peripheral jobs supporting those industries here on the island, so people are not living on the mainland and commuting in, and you see it every morning coming up and down I-45 on and off the island at 8 a.m. and at 5 p.m. So if we're going to have middle income people living on the island, which has always been a goal, you can't do it without the people having an opportunity to work on the island, because we're too far away from Houston for people to be commuting into Houston. Living here and commuting in, we need the jobs here. In Galveston and Texas City, out of the 13 municipalities in Galveston County, are the only two municipalities that have middle income to higher income jobs within their city limits. League City has always been a commuter community where people commute into Houston, into other areas. Same thing with everything north of 517. if we're going to have affordable middle income housing, which support the schools and have people raising their families here, we have to have the jobs here. And it was such a blessing in the last year to see in District 1 the incinerator finally demolished and that whole area being remediated from the toxins that leached into the area, so that that area can be developed near Home Depot and near Target, so that area can be utilized for future development. And that's what we need. We need the jobs first, and with the jobs, people can choose to raise their families here, given the school district that we have and given the wonderful amenities that we have in Galveston between the beach and being on this end of I-45.
Thank you. Do we start with Mr. Gutnich now? Woo, there's only two, but we're keeping up. We're keeping up. Okay, good job. How would you describe, for those watching, and if y'all will, when you're talking, if you don't mind, look at that camera because you're really addressing those thousands of people that are watching. I know it's hard because we're here and we want to have that conversation, but for those watching, how would you best describe your district currently, and what would that look like if you're successful in doing what you want to do? And the reason that you're running, what would that look like? If you could just describe it briefly for those.
District
and
1
what does
is
success look like?
I'm sorry. District 1 is a district in flux. We have a large commercial area, and then we have a large area of older homes. District 1 primarily is from 25th Street west to 69th Street north of Broadway, and then up to Avenue O to 39th Street south of Broadway. And in that area, we have many commercial areas and we have many residential areas. Well, it's primarily residential, and many of the homes in District 1, 85 to 90% of the housing stock are all over 50 years of age, and they're all wood. And that's why city services are so important when it comes to police and fire and refuse. And that's what I think many people who come into District 1 and see the development, like over at the brewery with Karamet Development renovating the brewery, and with the development over at the incinerator site, there's a lot of potential. And as the area's potential grows in District 1, hopefully many people will move into the area and develop and maintain the homes for the people who already live there. But for the people who already live there, they need the support of the city infrastructure to help maintain their homes and make sure it's a clean and safe area. For many years in the 70s and 80s, District 1 north of Broadway, we had many crime problems. And fortunately, through the years, those issues have been addressed. And with the new development, everything can grow as a whole in order to enhance the entire island. So I would describe it as an area influx, and it needs support from the community.
Very good. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, District 1 once again presents unto us a wonderful opportunity for future development because of the vast areas that's undeveloped in that particular district at this particular time. So it provides for us so many opportunities to bring in, as we said, housing, to bring in additional businesses, to bring in additional opportunity for those individuals in that particular district to have ownership, and then to be able to allow this city to continue to develop somewhat of an area that, once again, that will reflect the entire city of Galveston as a whole. When you're on the east end, it has its identity. You're on the west end, it has its identity. And so District 1 needs an identity that, once again, that would reflect an opportunity for those who desire to live in District 1. It presents a wonderful opportunity then for those businesses that desire to operate and bring forth income and jobs. So District 1 would have a vast area that they could begin to develop. And so District 1 has a unique position that would allow it to grow in so many different areas. So that's why we need to make sure that we have a voice, that we be able to be at the table when any type of development is coming into Galveston. There are any jobs that are coming into Galveston. Is there any housing development that's coming to Galveston? District 1 has an opportunity to be a part of that because it offers so many opportunities. We certainly can improve on the neighborhood makeup of it, and so as you see on the east end of District 1, there's been some development in the downtown area, the new fire station, all on Market Street, and so we would like to see some of that development just come all the way down, all the way down to the areas where, once again, close to the old Oleander property and in that particular area. So we have so many type of opportunities in District 1 that would help us, once again, bring District 1 to the forefront.
Thank you.
Who's next? Who's up this time?
Ms.
Mr.
Johnson.
All right.
Oh,
There's
true. That's
only
an easy
two
way
of
to-
them, but I still can't keep
I
track of
know.
whose turn it is. Mr. Johnson, what do you think about the rates residents pay for utilities such as water, sewer, and garbage collection? And if you think they're too high, what can be done to reduce those costs?
Well, once again, those are one of those particular areas where we need, of course, quality water, certainly to make sure of that. And when we start looking at the utilities for the water bills and things, I think that we are, once again, looking at a budgetary item that, once again, that we would have to address to make sure that the city is providing certainly a quality product for the citizens of Galveston, and to be able to know that those particular fees that, once again, that we are increasing or, once again, are being used for those particular items that we are yet raising those particular rates for. And so in so many instances where we have our rates raised, but do we really know where those dollars are actually going? And so we need to make sure that those individuals who certainly want to have that opportunity to address their rates, that we will be able to look at it from a standpoint of making sure that everyone certainly have an opportunity to know when there might be a rate increase, and we certainly know things go up over the time, but certainly knowing that the reason for that rate increase is a legitimate reason, and that it would bring forth a certain impact upon those citizens in District 1.
Thank you. I think it's the word that comes to my mind is outrageous. I think the increase in the water rates, I don't think many people understand that the city of Galveston purchases water from other entities and sells it to the citizens of Galveston at a profit. I think water is a basic function of city and municipal government that adversely affects so many people when those rates go up, especially in Galveston where we have so many elderly people and so many economically disadvantaged individuals. When I hear the increase in water rates, I just cringe because it affects so many people adversely. And being the former city secretary and seeing up there, seeing the revenue generated by the water department, it's just an issue that has to be addressed by city council. I think an increase in water rates is just outrageous when it's being sold to the citizens at a profit. And when it comes to garbage and refuse, I think I heard rumors for years, and then it went to city council when they wanted to contract out with a private company for the dumpster service in the city of Galveston. And I think our garbage personnel and our trucks are an valuable asset. That's what the people of Galveston are paying for. Police, fire, emergency personnel, and waste management. And that is a function of city government. I don't think it should be outsourced to any third-party vendor. I think the garbage personnel should remain city employees. The garbage trucks should belong to the citizens of Galveston, and that should be a service that the city provides and no other third party. When I hear of budgetary constraints and it may be cheaper, I look at other communities that try to outsource. It doesn't work. And I think that's what the citizens are paying for, and that's what they want.
Great, thank you. And now we're back with you. See, we learned. Last person talking, first one with the question. We're good. Hang in there with us. We don't have a whole lot of time. See how quickly that this moves. As you both know, the Galveston Regional Chamber of Commerce, we represent nearly 800 small businesses. And as you know, the small businesses are really struggling. 75% of those members are very small businesses, under 25 people. How would you, if elected, work with the chamber and work with those small businesses to ensure their future here, that they have the resources and the tools that they need? They're the lifeblood of this community, and I'd like to know how you'll work with us to save those businesses and bring other businesses here. Yes, sir.
I think it all comes down to infrastructure, and that's the function of city government. If we provide a safe community from crime, safe community from fires, safe community so at 2 o'clock in the morning when somebody's having a heart attack, an ambulance is going to show up. When we provide city services, providing a clean community with our garbage personnel and our refuse personnel, I think addressing those key elements, that only creates an environment for businesses to flourish. And I believe the chamber comes up with its agenda. The chamber develops an agenda and provides that to city council on a periodic basis. So in supporting businesses, if the city does its role, plays its role, and does its job in creating a safe, stable environment for businesses to flourish, everything flows from that. Because no, I don't believe any business wants to work in a crime-ridden, unsafe environment. So if the city function, the basic city functions that the citizens understand that they're paying for are taken care of, I think everything would flow from that and businesses would flourish.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Well, I think once again from the standpoint of being a business owner myself, I think that the city and the small business community certainly need to work hand in hand together because of what the small businesses bring to the table. As once again, you don't get an opportunity to see based upon our tourism, based upon the other industries. Of course, we have the medical side, then we have the port side, and then we also have the tourism side. And so you hear a lot about those particular boards that the city has to work with those particular entities. And so I think with the chamber, we have an opportunity also to work along with them to address many of the concerns of the small business community and to make sure that those particular entities have the same opportunity just as many of the other entities in the city are having, to be able to know that we bring so many tax dollars to the table. We have so many opportunities to bring jobs to the city. And so when we yet have a healthy small business community, we certainly can bring about so many different aspects and areas into this particular city based upon those jobs being created by those individuals who have invested in the community themselves and are looking forward to helping someone else also to become a part of this community. So the small business community, I certainly wholeheartedly think that we need to make sure that we have a seat at the table also, to make sure that we also have an opportunity to have the same voice, the same opportunity as any other entity, to make sure that we are yet once again are having our concerns and our needs addressed in such a way that it would be a great benefit to this entire city to know that we have a small business community that is vibrant and healthy and one that will yet achieve great things for us.
So as a councilman, what would you do to help solve the island's perennial litter problem?
Well, that's one of the issues there where we got to certainly educate a lot of the individuals that are part of the city. And then as far as the litter is concerned, when we have a weekend like we just had, you're going to have litter that's going to come. But I think we need to work within our neighborhoods and work within the city, as I see more so now as ever, which is a positive thing, that after situations like the weekend that we've had with Labor Day, Memorial Day, and even after each weekend, I've seen where the city now has staff and individuals out picking up litter, picking up trash. Now I see that, and I think that's a great and a wonderful opportunity for us to know that our city is being cared for. Our tax dollars are yet being put to use in a positive way. And so I see that as I drive maybe on Sunday mornings. I see that there are city workers picking up litter along the seawall, picking up litter along Broadway. So I certainly know that we are addressing that particular issue at this point, based upon what I've seen, what I've come to be able to look at for myself. And so I think that's one of the important aspects of making sure that this city certainly is being kept in such a way. We certainly, once again, must do our part as those who are citizens and part of this wonderful community. But yet we need to make sure that that is wonderful opportunity for us to make sure that our city is kept up in such a way.
Mr. Godnich.
I agree. I think it all comes down to infrastructure and a priority of city services. When we have Memorial Day and Labor Day and special events throughout the city, I do think the city has made immense strides in addressing those issues. But when you have lulls, like due to the current virus, where areas have been shut down for a while, and then all of a sudden we get a large influx, many people aren't accustomed to seeing mountains of garbage like it was before. But I think the city, that's a priority for city services, and I think the city needs to focus on those issues. But then it also goes back to an issue of the short-term rentals that were brought up earlier. Depending on where the short-term rentals are, you're bringing people, visitors to our island from high tourism areas like the beach or down on the Strand into neighborhoods and into areas where they generally weren't accustomed before. And that was a problem in other parts of the city where they're having these party houses and things like that that were creating issues for the neighbors. So we're not just talking about waste and refuse on the street, we're talking about noise pollution as well. And those issues need to be addressed by city government so that we don't have residential areas that are not adapted or not inviting to massive amounts of tourists coming into your neighborhood and into your driveway. Those issues need to be addressed by city government and supporting our community, our neighborhoods within our community, so that city services can better address the high concentration of visitors, such as on the beach or after motorcycle rally downtown, where the city services can better meet the large volume of visitors. But when we have short-term rentals and these party houses and neighborhoods where that aren't accustomed to these things, that's what creates issues all across the city rather than just in certain areas where the city can better address those type of issues.
Thank you, sir.
Very good, thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. And it's actually a statement. You'll have 2 minutes now to really look into this camera and talk to your constituents and those viewing, and tell us why you feel and why you're running in this district and why you feel you're the best person for the job in District 1.
Well, being a business owner here on the island and being a lifelong resident of District 1, I'm passionate and very, very concerned about the direction of the community. You can never go back. I think the city's on a good path, but in this city government needs to be directed to meet the needs of the citizens first and the people who live here all year round. And as opportunities become available, such as the incinerator site, the area where the old brewery was, as those areas are being developed, I am very concerned about the direction that this community could turn. And I'd like to be I believe I would be a valuable asset in helping direct our city government in a path that benefits the whole island, but in particular District 1, where so much is in flux that it needs to be addressed in a responsible manner And I not only do I want to be a part of that, I see the need to step in at this time. I've been involved in city government in the past and in county government in the past, but now with so many things in flux at this time, I felt it was important to run for District 1 at this time in order to address the challenges that I see facing the community as tax rates are increased, as city budgets are being expanded, and I don't want to see the opportunities available to District 1 and this island in general be squandered.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Well, certainly, once again, my reason, once again, for running for this particular position is to first and foremost to be a representative of District 1, as the voice of District 1, to make sure that District 1 has an opportunity, just like the other districts in our city, to be able to allow it to become a place that it is developed. It is a wonderful opportunity in the direction that the city is going now, and I think that because of what's actually going on, what the city is now embarking on, it's important that we have someone who first and foremost has somewhat of a business background to understand the business aspect of it, then to also have a background of one who lives within the district, to be able to know that as a homeowner in that particular district, that I also have invested, and others who have also invested, like Mr. Gottlieb himself, have an opportunity to know that they have someone down there at City Hall who is representing them and their particular interests, and to make sure that this city has an opportunity to become a place where everyone has an opportunity to succeed and become successful because of the success stories that you see from myself and him, will give us a wonderful opportunity to know that we have a voice. So many times in instances like this, we come up with a lot of promises, we come up with a lot of statements that say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But to be able to not have an opportunity to have your voice heard is, once again, is doing a disservice to you. And so I think as a candidate, I'm one who's going to listen to those constituents of District 1 and the entire city to make sure that your voice is heard, make sure that your concerns are being brought to the forefront, and that you have someone who's going to be willing to stand up, not have any special interest, but to stand up for each and every one of you as your representative.
Thank y'all so much for your time. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
We appreciate you tuning in with us. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here live at the Sea Star base at 1:15 with our District 2 candidates. Any parting thoughts, Michael?
Just like my esteemed colleague always says, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Join us at 1:15. Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you.
for being with us. We appreciate you.